Hi, it's Andy again, and another video for this week as we begin the week before we meet again, hopefully. And so this video is about preparing, which is really what we've been doing for the last several weeks. I've been trying to prepare us for when we are able to gather again. And I know many people will be excited about the prospect of gathering again. Some will not be able to. So we need to be very cautious. We need to be careful as we begin to come back together and celebrate being back together, and all of that is good. But there's going to be people, right here in Fairfax that want to be, that can't be. There's going to be people around the country that want to get back together with their churches and can't because of COVID-19 restrictions in states and cities, as far as their own health. There will be people in our local area that just because of being more at risk for contracting this virus, they won't be able to come back. So even as we celebrate, we need to be cautious. We need to be careful that we don't isolate people in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable or unwelcome in any way. But we've been preparing, and all the way back at the beginning of this 7 or 8 week period, I talked about the fact that this is not just a pause and restarting, but this is a reset. This is like hitting the stop button, or more specifically, let's go back to the analog days, picking up the needle off of the record. You can't put it back in the same place. And this morning, and actually it took a lot longer, part of the reason I'm a little bit later in my video than planned today, I had a meeting with pastors and church, other people that are part of church staff in Maryville, as we generally do once a month, but we haven't met for a couple of months because of COVID-19. And we just talked, what are your churches, what is your church doing? How are you responding? And it was really good to talk to other pastors, because we've all been thinking through this, and we've been researching this, and but just how is that going to impact our area? And there's a couple of things that I want to share that I think will be helpful, even though it's not going to be helpful. First off, we don't know. There's your unhelpful. But even just admitting we don't know is helpful. None of us have been through this before. I mean, no church leader that is alive today. Well, I mean, maybe there's somebody that's like 103 years old that lived through the Spanish flu when they were a young child or whatever. But there was nobody leading anything if they were still alive at that point, and or at that point, I should say. So we're all in this. We're all new to this. It's this process. So many of us are thinking the same types of things, approaching it the same type of way. But as we think through that, here's something that I can promise you: we're going to make mistakes. Yay! So there's going to be changes, which makes people skittish, even fearful. There's going to be mistakes, which makes us all uncomfortable. But I am a big believer in the fact that we learn best from when we make our mistakes. And I think I've talked about that before. Not that we want to make mistakes. We need to minimize our mistakes. We need to minimize the effect of our mistakes, but we can learn from those. And so here's really what I want to talk about today. As we move forward, as we begin to meet again this week, and in the weeks to come, we're going to be trying new things. We're going to be experimenting with some things. We're going to be changing some things. And again, that was one of the things that we all agreed with. We now is an opportune time to get back to the basics. One of the things you're going to hear me say over the next few weeks, I don't know when specifically when it'll come out, maybe this week, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, is, it's not time to maintain an institution. It's time to make disciples. And I might say that reverse. We need to focus on what Jesus said to do, make disciples, rather than maintain an institution. And so that's going to require change. And if we want to grow as individuals, we can't be comfortable. I mean, whenever we seek comfort, we cannot grow. When we see growth, we cannot stay comfortable. And I'm not talking about, numbers. I'm just talking about our lives. And so, again, one of the things that I've been trying to communicate during these videos over the past several weeks is the necessity to be intentional, because when we strive for comfort, most of the time we're not intentional. Now, we may be intentional in the fact that, I'm going to bed, I want to be comfortable, so I'm going to lie in a particular position, or I'm going to relax for a bit, and I can intentionally choose to relax, whatever those kinds of things are. But typically, in the bigger picture comfort, I just want what is natural to me. And again, natural means that we can't grow. We have to make an effort. So, as we seek to determine what's going to work, we seek to determine how we're going to move forward, and as we make these mistakes, two promises that I can make to you as it relates to the mistakes that are going to be made by me, by us as a church, by others, etc. But two mistakes. I'm sorry, two outcomes from those mistakes. Number one, it's going to create conflict, and therefore we can respond with anger, with intense emotion, with making more challenges, with making the situation worse. All of that comes from conflict, and so that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about this week. The other way that we can respond is love. Now, love and conflict are not uh, separate from one another. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. To be in conflict can bring us closer together. Again, that can be a part of the growth process, a part of the uncomfortability, right? That we're in this conflict and we're uncomfortable, but that can allow us to grow even more. And again, as I shared over the last couple of weeks, think about the disciples. The conflict that was going on, even the internal conflict that they had after Jesus died, but even in the weeks leading up to his death, it talks about they were arguing which one's better, which one's more important than the other one. And there's that internal conflict. But once they became unified after the resurrection, the world was changed. I mean, there was no longer about comfort. There was no longer about me. It was about we and what can we do. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about over the coming weeks is the idea of moving from a more centralized approach to church, meaning let's rely on the pastor, let's rely on a few, to saying, I don't know, something that sounds biblical, let's rely on the many. As Ephesians 4:12 says, that it is the responsibility of the leadership within the church to equip the saints for the work of ministry. And so that'll be a part of the discussion going forward. That'll be a part of how we try to reorganize, a part of the changes. And again, I promise you, we are going to make mistakes. I am going to make mistakes. And so what I need to do is I need to be willing to stand up and say, church, if it's to the church, or individual, if it's to one person, maybe it's you. And I need to come to you by name and say, you know what, I messed up. And you need to be willing to come to me and say, Andy, I messed up. We need to be able to forgive one another. We need to be able to encourage one another. We need to be able to love one another, right? Because that's what the church does. So again, there's going to be mistakes. Let me back up. There's going to be changes. There has to be, in order for us to really accomplish what God wants us to accomplish. And again, that was part of the great encouragement of today's meeting with the pastors, was that we're all kind of thinking the same general thing. Lots of head nods, and then there were some challenges, and we even started to say, well, what if we did this, and what if we did this, and we realized that we're just moving right back into the same rut after we had just talked about, man, we need to break out of a rut. And so I realize that as leaders, if that is a temptation and a challenge for us, how much more so for everybody. So push me. I'm encouraging you to push me. I'm encouraging you to challenge me, but I'm also encouraging you to allow me the grace to make mistakes. Hold me accountable to apologize. Maybe I don't realize that a mistake was made, but if come to me and say, Andy, this didn't work the way we thought it would, or what thought it should, or that you thought it should, whatever. But so there's going to be changes. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be conflict. But ideally, we can overcome all of that with love. So the next couple of days, I'm going to be talking about ways that we can resolve conflict, and the purpose behind love in the next couple of videos. And then I'm going to be transitioning more towards truly meeting on Thursday. What is it going to mean for us to meet in the month of May? And then Friday, as I promised, I'm going to share the idea of doing more, MORE. So that is kind of laying out the week. Conflict tomorrow, love Wednesday. On Thursday, what we'll be doing this weekend and through May subsequently. Again, we may have to tweak some things after we meet on Sunday. We may find out some things worked great and other things didn't work well. It's mistakes or learning opportunities as they might be. So, and then Friday, talking about as we really move forward, being a people and specifically a church that does more. So I hope you'll join me for that. If you have questions, thoughts, put those in the comments, and I'll try to deal with those as well. If these videos are helpful, hit the like button on that down below. Also, subscribe or share it with others so that we might subscribe. We still need many more subscribers so that we can move our channel from just a random string of characters to saying, youtube.com, Fairfax Baptist Church. And that's a goal to make it easier for other people to find these videos. So if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and like it, share it there as well. That could be helpful too. So I hope you are finding these videos helpful. And again, I'll be back around 1 o'clock each of the rest of the week. I think I don't really think I have any conflicts the rest of the week for more live videos going ahead. So until tomorrow, take care.